This is the best of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today on the show, we have Kenyon Martin. Talk to him about funny things that happened during his career. Men in Blazers. Wyatt Cenac. We're also endeavoring to get a hold of David Wells. Just talk to him about being hungover and drinking too much and then throwing, was it a no-hitter or a perfect game?
Perfect game. Boomer.
In the first hour of our show, Chris Cody said one of the dumbest things ever said on the show.
That's saying a lot.
He thought that a starter pistol had actual bullets in it, and then when told absolutely not, he said, well, it shoots something, doesn't it?
I thought it was like smoke, maybe some flares.
Shoot something.
Not my best moment.
Okay. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Is Fat Chris dumb for thinking that the starter pistol in a track meet shot bullets? That's it. But speaking of dumb, you should have seen the thing that Stugotz got mad at during the break. It's crazy to me. The things that he gets mad about are nuts. First of all, during the local hour, he was mad at Derek Jeter for playfully telling a kid who was wearing a Dodger cap and asking for an autograph that he'd get an autograph if he took off the cap. Like Jeter was joking, Stugotz ripped him as if he had said something that was deeply offensive to, America.
I'm not so certain Jeter was joking. Do you know that for a fact, that he was joking? It's a terrible thing to do to a little kid. That's it. That's all I'm saying, man. Kid, he doesn't decide. He just puts on a hat in the morning. He goes outside of the baseball game. He wants an autograph from Jeter. Jeter signed the baseball. He doesn't take off the hat. Terrible.
Honestly, beggars can't be choosers. Anyone that shows up to that park, you just say thank you. How about that?
Exactly.
Well, Guillermo's going to show up to that park later. We're going to try and figure out how we're going to do it without giving the Marlins $1 because he is boycotting the Marlins. But the Marlins have a game today at noon, and so we're going to send Guillermo out there to just count fans. We're going to put him on the air and just have him start counting. Like behind us. He's just going to count, and I don't think he's going to get to 1,000.
It's going to be a very short segment.
I have been told a number of people have texted in saying that there is some sort of, school class trip day to the Marlins Park, and maybe a senior event going on. I'm being serious.
Okay,
here,
but those don't count. Those don't. We're not counting those. No, we're not counting the people they bus in to pretend that they're getting attendance.
Right.
We're going to eliminate them.
Because this is a 12:10 start on a Thursday afternoon. School's almost over down here, and so this is a day, I know this for a fact, this is a day where a lot of classrooms, teachers will take the entire class of kids to the Marlins game tonight.
Well, I was told that wasn't happening yet. We've got Marlins and Dodgers. Somehow they've got the same record, even though the Dodger payroll is close to $200 million.
Yeah, it's not summer camp season. What schools are actually taking their kids to Marlins games as a field trip? Not a good look.
Teach your kids something.
These are our tax dollars at work?
Crazy.
The thing that Stugotz got mad at during the break, though, Mike, it was amazing to watch because he's barking at his computer because after these games, like James Harden is not much of a quote. James Harden is not interesting. He doesn't say interesting things. The most interesting thing about James Harden is that he somehow always scores even though he looks really slow. Like a texter's writing in here, and he's right. Does anyone else think of Le'Veon Bell when you watch James Harden? Just like Bell, Harden is the only player I've ever seen that goes dramatically slower than any player ever has and uses it as a technique the same way that Kareem would use a skyhook. It's really confusing to watch. Paul Pierce did some of that.
A little bit, yeah.
But what Stugotz got mad at, Mike, I'm not making this up. So these guys, after games, they have to say something. They have to explain it. Rockets Warriors are going to come down to who hits those threes. Mm-hmm. And the Warriors are better at it than the Rockets are. And the reason the Rockets can put doubt there is only because can they do what they did last night 4 times in 7 games? Because they can beat anyone under those circumstances, but Golden State is the only team in the history of the sport, I think, that could beat them even if they're playing that way.
Right.
That Golden State, even if Houston plays the way it did last night, Golden State is capable of getting the game that still beats them. Steph Curry's been awful in this series so far, and they're just attacking him on defense twice as much as anyone did during the regular season. They've gone after him more than anyone else. 43 times they've gone after just Steph Curry, going specifically at trying to find the hole in the Warriors defense, a defense that's very good.
Yeah, but so what you're saying, the Rockets have to do what they did last night, which is 52% from the field, right around 40% from three. They need to do that 4 times. And even if they do it 4 times, there's a time where Golden State could match them and just outscore
but we've
them.
known all season that this is going to come down. The way Houston's playing is this is going to come down. Can Houston 4 times in 7 games play that game?
Right.
Play that one, because that's the only one that can beat Golden State.
Sure.
But Golden State can also. That's why this series is so exciting for me. I want Golden State pushed to the brink. I want to see what they can do in a Game 7 on the road. You saw what they did Game 6 at Oklahoma City against Durant that made Durant come and be with them. You saw what ended OKC's Durant run. Game 6, Klay Thompson taking shots from half court. Now, something that is weird about Golden State is I don't fear them the way that I did 2 or 3 years ago about when they're down 11 with 5 minutes left. I don't know why I don't. My eyes might be lying to me, but my eyes lie to me all the time. It looked yesterday like Houston was playing more team ball. They weren't. They did isolation just as much. They were just doing more of it at the rim and then dishing.
Right.
But they were playing just as much isolation ball as they did in Game 1. But the difference last night is that PJ Tucker and Eric Gordon scored more than any Warrior not named Durant. And I think, was there somebody else? There might have been somebody else who scored more than any Warrior that was not named Durant and not named Harden and Paul. Like, I think there was a third guy.
Did you say Ariza?
I didn't say Ariza. What did he have?
He had 19 points last
All right,
night.
so the Warriors never played that game. They had 2 guys in double figures?
The Warriors had Kevin Durant with 38 and Curry with 16. Yep, that's it.
But one of the things that I find interesting about this series is Houston is not going to double Durant. Durant can do that whenever he wants. But you know how many assists Durant has in the series? 1.
Really? Well, I know he had 0 last night.
Yeah, because they're not going to let him. They're not going to double him and let him find Steph Curry or Klay Thompson.
The other difference, you pointed out that they're hitting their shots. A lot of people are pointing to the assist numbers, and it was more team basketball from the Rockets last night. No, it was the same basketball. The Rockets were just knocking down their shots. That's why the assist numbers were up. So,
but that's how your eyes lie to you when the shots go in.
Yes.
They were playing exactly the same type of game in terms of isolation ball. Tucker said after the game, Tucker had 1 point in the first game. Tucker said after the game, we didn't change anything. This is the best offensive rating in the history of the sport during the regular season. Why would we change it?
They hit their shots. Golden State was not hitting their shots at the same clip. Klay Thompson wasn't good last night. He was great in Game 1. Wasn't good last night.
Nobody but Durant was for the Warriors. The Warriors are doing what Belichick does with tiny white people by throwing Swaggy P out there. They're playing Swaggy P in meaningful minutes. Nick Young, a career laughingstock, they're giving him legitimate playoff minutes because they just want him to shoot from the perimeter. But
he had 3 threes in the first half, Game 1, like massive threes. He did. Swaggy P, man.
I understand. Anybody in the league who could shoot threes would shoot them best on that team. Not a surprise. They can do it with anyone. They're telling you that by playing Swaggy P playoff minutes. But that's not what Stugotz was mad about. Mike, you want to know what Stugotz was mad about? That James Harden, all these guys have to say something after the game. And so what James Harden said is, our focus is not the Warriors. And Stugotz got angry.
Well, I mean, we should all be angry. Everyone. The entire nation should be angry because all year, everything was about the Golden State Warriors. Their GM, Daryl Morey, has come out and said, we're obsessed with the Warriors and how to beat this Golden State Warrior team. And James Harden, after he gets a victory last night, 127-105, all of a sudden he's not concerned about the Warriors anymore. He's concerned about his own game. Give me a break. And who cares? The Warriors, that's what you should be concerned about. What's the big deal coming out afterwards and saying, yes, we're still concerned about the Golden State Warriors? All of a sudden it shifted. Everything changed with one game where they're not obsessed with the Warriors. That's the team they should be obsessed with because that's the team they have to beat to win an NBA championship. I don't get why he said it. Do you?
The better question is why it upsets you.
I don't know, because I don't know. I mean, it's just, what upsets me is, if you asked him before Game 1, what are you focused on? He'd say getting past this Golden State Warrior team. And then after Game 2, he has a good game, they get a victory, they're tied 1 game apiece, maybe he's feeling pretty good about himself and his team, and then all of a sudden, the focus has shifted. I don't like that, and that's what I'm getting mad about, when focus shifts.
My father yesterday on television, on Highly Questionable, he was ripping Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Rockets, who came on this show and has been on shows saying that same thing, which is our every thought has been about the Warriors all year. but he kept ripping Daryl Morey without using Daryl Morey's name, which led me to believe that he didn't know Daryl Morey's name. And so when I asked him on television, Papi, what's the name of the general manager of the Rockets that you keep ripping? He blurts very confidently, Scott Donaldson.
Don Le Batard.
Harden got selfish and decided he wanted to go to Houston and be the guy. And I told you when he went there, he's never going to win a championship. He was more concerned, James Harden, about being the best player on a decent team than he was on being the third best player on a legendary team.
Stugotz.
Hey, James Harden. And the beard's enough already. Oh, who is he with a beard? Hey, he's trying to be different. I get it, James Harden. The beard. It's seriously the beard. When I think of James Harden, I won't think of anything other. I won't think of championships. I won't think of winning. I won't think of one of the all-time greats. I'll only think of his ridiculous beard. It's Harden. Him and his beard should be ashamed of themselves.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Got a lot to talk about. Stugotz won't look at me because right before the microphones went on, he said, I just don't understand, Dan. You're climbing the mountain. You're this close. You don't want to lose focus. Your focus has to be on the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like he's still doing that.
I mean, it's a little late in the game for the focus to be shifting. That's all I'm saying.
Who cares?
Keep your eye on the prize.
Who cares what he says?
I don't know.
It's one of the more cliche throwaway sound bites, and you've latched onto this. What do you think his focus is on? Winning a title now?
James Harden.
Because that's synonymous with getting through the Warriors.
Then he's getting ahead of himself if his focus is there, and that's what I'm worried about. Like, keep the focus where the focus needs to be, and the focus needs to be on the Golden State Warriors. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
James Harden's beard is interesting. His clothes is interesting. His game is interesting. His history is interesting. His speaking is not.
Yeah.
He doesn't say anything interesting. When has he said anything that you've been like,
I find this one to be interesting.
All right, there are all sorts of things that Stugotz finds interesting. First of all, he got Golic and Wingo all riled up because he just went on the morning show and he just said that LeBron is flatly tanking games.
It was a masterclass.
Thank you.
Also,
Thank
he
you guys.
attributed things to Stephen A. Smith, and I'm not sure Stephen A. said or whatnot. But Golic and Wingo made the biggest mistake when having the Stugotz on your show. Yeah. They held him accountable.
Yep.
And what did he do?
Oh, he just started riffing. Dug deeper with no facts that he kept attributing to people that were not even positive, actually, they said.
Yeah, what's happened here is I'm not credible at all, and so what I need to do is use Stephen A. Smith and things that he has said, or others. It doesn't matter who it is, just as long as they're credible. I use them as an example to support some of my argument. And then I just hope and pray they said the actual things that I said that they said.
Yeah, exactly. Or things they haven't said and just say that they said it, and no one's going to... I felt, when I was watching this morning, I felt like I was watching Borat. And he was tricking these two sports guys into thinking he was like a legitimate sports person.
I can't believe that
they were so mad at him.
We have arrived in the place where Stugotz is Ali G. He is Colbert. He's the closest thing this network has. People at this network still don't understand that he's a caricature. How is that possible?
Yeah, but the genius behind any of Sacha Baron Cohen's characters is he goes in with a plan. Yeah. Like, this is all orchestrated and crafted by a genius. Stugotz is just being Stugotz.
Exactly. That's the thing. He's not playing a character.
No plan.
I know, but that's the best part of him being Colbert and Ali G. It's not clever. It's just him. Like, he's not even certain that he's in on the joke. Like, when he's on with Golic and Wingo, he absolutely believes that a guy who put up 42, 10, and 12 is throwing games.
Yeah.
My favorite part was actually watching on the simulcast and your face trying to process people actually holding you accountable for something that you're saying.
Felt weird. I didn't know what to do. Was I twitching? What happened?
Well, Stugotz is weird in a number of different ways, not the least of which is that during the break, he's like, Dan, John Fox came out of the gate swinging.
The ESPN gates. First day on the job. Said Bears' biggest challenge, improving Mitchell Trubisky's passing game. How about that? A thing he never would have said a year ago. That's coming out of the ESPN gate swinging, man.
That's
like,
coming.
I'm going to be a guy that's going to say stuff.
The ESPN budget, that's coming out of it, too. That's why you hired John Fox, because he tells you Trubisky's got to get better. Boom. It's a controversial statement to say as a coach. let you get on this network. The only way to get on this network is to be 2-23 at the end, the way that Herm Edwards was. Comes out of the gate swinging.
He really did.
Speaking of which, Rick Barry's at it again. This is sound courtesy of Fox Sports Radio. He is fighting with Rob Parker. We delighted in a fight that Stugotz had with Rick Barry. Rick Barry is playing the hits all over sports radio again.
LeBron was scoring all game, had a chance to make a play at the basket, and instead passed. I think that's what people were looking at.
Didn't have a chance. He was going against defense. There's no guarantee he was going to make it. There's no guarantee he was going to get fouled, and he had one of the best three-point shooters in the damn game open, and he threw it to him. So please get off his case.
Thank you.
Come on, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
You got to stop.
You got to stop because you don't know the game. If you're saying that you don't know the game, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Rick, I'm not. No. I've been covering basketball forever.
I don't care how long you've been covering it. You didn't play the game, and if you make that comment,
you know what? And Rick, you don't know radio, and you don't know journalism.
No, I know radio.
No, you
I've
don't.
done radio for
no,
years.
you don't. You're a basketball player.
You
guys kill me. It's always the same thing. You didn't play basketball, so you don't know basketball.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
game,
Rick.
That's your excuse. You're going to go and wail about that
journalism
fact that I bring
and respect that people.
You're a loser. Forget it.
No, you are. You're a loser, Rick. Hang up on him. Thanks for calling.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
All right, we got more next.
I don't know if I can wait.
Ponte los patines.
You're a loser. No, you are. Sports Radio. Guillermo, put it on the poll. You're a loser. No, you are. Sports Radio. Yes or no? We got more sound from that interview, and then we've got Rick Barry fighting with Stugotz as well. The Black Tux, people, is your go-to source. Also, Bartolo Colon took 100 miles an hour in the gut and got the out. Bartolo Colon is great. He remains fat. He remains old. He remains getting out.
Said it didn't hurt.
Of course it didn't. There have been home runs that have died in that navel.
Dan Batard.
This is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, 16 times your world heavyweight champion.
Stugotz.
The limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, jet flying son of a gun. Ladies and gentlemen, Nature Boy, Dan Batard. Woo!
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We are allegedly a sports radio show. We are not allegedly the biggest one in America. And many of you are asking what I look like, which you can't see on the radio. Why I'm dressed this way.
Yeah. Look like a mess.
I look like a mess. Mike Ryan, as with all of these costumes that I have to wear when I lose at the Grid of Death, Mike Ryan says this is a good look for me. He did it with Dog the Bounty Hunter. He did it with George Michael. He keeps saying that these looks are good for me. Today, I am Robert Smith of The Cure, and shortly, even though Mike, bought us an extra small, or got from Robert Smith, the Vikings running back, an extra small jersey that he's presently wearing that is super snug and especially snug at the bottom. I'm going to put that on in a half hour, and it's really uncomfortable. It feels like being in a straitjacket. It's so tight. The game uniform of Robert Smith.
The bangs really do a great job of framing your face.
That is a terrible look. I would not want anyone I love anywhere near you if I saw you in the street looking like that.
Okay, but you don't know anything about the rock scene and what it is that I might lure backstage. You don't know. What would you know about that? So, Rick Barry is fun to listen to because he will call you a loser and he will tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. So let's go back to this Fox Sports Radio sound of Rick Barry arguing with Rob Parker. And at one point, Rob Parker just says, hang up on this guy, as if he's not one of the top 50 basketball players of all time. So listen to this back and forth again before we play for you something that's probably 10 years old. I remember Stugotz leaving the station, calling his dad, and his dad making him call Rick Barry to apologize for what happened on the radio. And it happened again. Rick Barry, Rob Parker, Fox Sports Radio.
LeBron was scoring all game, had a chance to make a play at the basket, and instead passed. I think that's what people were looking at.
Didn't have a chance. He was going against defense. There's no guarantee he was going to make it. There's no guarantee he was going to get fouled, and he had one of the best three-point shooters in the damn game open, and he threw it to him. So please get off his case.
Thank you.
Come on, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
You got to stop.
You got to stop because you don't know the game. If you're saying that you don't know the game, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Rick, I'm not. No. I've been covering basketball forever.
I don't care how long you've been covering it. You didn't play the game, and if you make that comment,
you know what? And Rick, you don't know radio, and you don't know journalism.
No, I know radio.
No, you
I've
don't.
done radio for
no,
years.
you don't. You're a basketball player.
You
guys kill me. It's always the same thing. You didn't play basketball, so you don't know basketball.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
game,
Rick.
And that's your excuse. You're going to go and wail about that
journalism and respect that people.
You're a loser. Forget it.
No, you are. You're a loser, Rick. Hang up on him. Thanks for calling.
Those are the building blocks of sports radio.
Yeah, and we were doing, look, man, we're pioneers. We were doing this tired bleep 10 years ago.
You shoot foul shots underhanded, so that makes you an expert?
There is no way
that makes you an expert because you played,
can study
Rick.
the game
because
and possibly
you
know as much as I know about the game.
Rick Barry played, and by the way, does a sports radio show, so he knows more than everyone else.
I used to do one and everything, and I always admire guys like Stugotz who had enough guts to be able to argue with me when it came to basketball.
Right.
When you can argue me about any other sport, and I'll take your word; it's just as good as mine.
I never played. But I never played, so I can talk about football, but I never played.
Oh, no, we were just getting started. This part is not the part that John Stugotz's father made him apologize for on the way home. Stugotz was a punished 4-year-old, and 4-year-olds could drive on the way home calling Rick Barry because this kept escalating.
Rick, come on. I could put
Did he win a championship without Scottie Pippen?
No, he did not, but I could put 70 Pippins with him.
So go to another one.
But I could put 70
another one.
I could put 70 Pippins with him, and he wins 6 championships.
Wait a second. That's not the point. The point is you're trying to change the parameters. You made a blanket statement that Kobe Bryant has never won it. He's never been the main reason that his team won a championship. And here's the deal.
Rick,
only Michael Jordan? If he never won without Scottie Pippen. Name another player.
And how many did Pippen win without him?
Name another player.
Rick, how many did Pippen win without him?
How many did Shaq win without Kobe? One, because he had Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
Okay, who did Pippen have? Nobody. So go on. Name me another one.
But Rick, the question was, do you
name another one?
The question was, Rick Barry, do you think Kobe wants to win one and be the main reason? That was the question.
And I said yes, I think he does. And I already said that.
And because
I'm asking you to give me another person. You are not answering the question. You haven't come up with anybody.
And because you like Kobe so much, you heard it the way you want to hear it.
Listen,
you heard it the way you want to hear it.
You stuck your foot in it. You opened your mouth and stuck your foot in it. Give me another player who was a great player, who was the main responsibility
Rick, it doesn't matter
winning a championship without help from somebody else.
Hakeem Olajuwon. It doesn't matter who I give you. You're going to throw someone back in my face. Hakeem Olajuwon. Go, Rick.
Hakeem Olajuwon I would go for.
Who are you going to get? Oh, you're going to go for that. So I got you. Okay, Mr. Credibility. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. I drove home, and my dad, because Rick Barry's one of his favorite players of all time, and my dad was very upset with me, and he said, you just destroyed a legend. You were disrespectful to a legend. I said, Dad, he was coming at me. What do you mean? He was disrespectful to your son. And he said, I care more about Rick Barry than I do my son. You call that man up and you apologize. Mm-hmm. And so I spent like 20 minutes on the phone with Rick just begging for his apology. Begging.
For his forgiveness.
Yes, for his forgiveness. Excuse me. I made the apology.
How do you feel listening back to that?
Awful.
Are you feeling shame?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, he should have apologized to me. The question was, Rick Barry. That's serious. You're a little bit rude.
You
right?
were waiting for the emailers and the texters to give you Hakeem Olajuwon. Like I've studied your work for a long time. God. That was before Dirk Nowitzki, or you would have been able to throw Dirk Nowitzki at him too.
I mean, it was maybe like 25 seconds, but I'm telling you, it felt like a lifetime. I was waiting for someone to give me a key.
I love that so much. See if you guys see the spot here. Let's just listen to that last sound again and examine it so that you guys can hear the way that Stugotz defiantly filibusters while he waits for the texters to give him his argument.
Rick, come on. I could put
Did he win a championship without Scottie Pippen?
No, he did not, but I could put
well,
70 Pippins with him.
So go to another one.
But I could put 70 Scottie.
Another one.
I could put 70 Pippins with him, and he wins 6 championships.
Wait a second. That's not the point. The point is you're trying to change the parameters. You made a blanket statement that Kobe Bryant has never won it. He's never been the main reason that his team won a championship. And here's the deal.
Rick,
was it only Michael Jordan? If he never won without Scottie Pippen.
Right.
Name another player.
And how many did Pippen win without him?
Name another player.
Rick, how many did Pippen win without him?
How many did Shaq win without Kobe? One, because he had Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
Okay, who did Pippen have? Nobody. So go on. Name me another one.
But Rick, the question
Name another one.
The question was,
Name another one.
The question was, Rick Barry, do you think Kobe wants to win one and be the main reason? That was the question.
And I said, yes, I think he does. And I already said that.
And because
I'm asking you to give me another person. You are not answering the question. You haven't come up with anything.
And because you like Kobe so much, you heard it the way you want to hear it.
Listen,
you heard it the way you want to hear it.
You stuck your foot in it. You opened your mouth and stuck your foot in it. Give me another player who was a great player, who was the main responsibility
Rick, it doesn't matter.
Winning a championship without help from somebody else.
Hakeem Olajuwon. It doesn't matter what you're going to throw someone back.
Blessed relief.
Hakeem Olajuwon. Go, Rick.
Better, yeah.
Hakeem Olajuwon I would go for.
Who are you going to get? Oh, you're going to go for that. So I got you. Okay, Mr. Credibility. Thank you.
Blessed relief.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Dan Le Batard.
Fake Marty Smith, you're on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz.
Hey, Dano! It's Marty Party! What are you guys doing? Hey, Stu!
Hey, Marty!
Yeah. Hey, guys, hey! I just parachuted out of a plane, man, and in Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa just got down here. I'm with Nick Saban, man!
Yeah,
we're about to go bass fishing on some jet skis!
Yeah, that's great.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
You should watch this guy's show, Problem Areas. It airs Friday nights at 11:30 on HBO. You know HBO makes some of the best television out there. Wyatt Cenac used to be on The Daily Show, and he's had a lot of success in his life. And I'm curious, Wyatt, thanks for making time for us. When you told the people who love you that you wanted comedy as a career choice, how did that one go over?
That's definitely not a thing that I think a parent wants to hear a child say, unless that parent is also a comedian, presumably a successful one, that can see a path that exists there. I don't think they necessarily saw it. And for me as a kid, there were definitely other things that they wanted me to think about, possibly being a doctor or a lawyer.
So you had what kind of doubt? Like at what point would you point to the career path and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I made the right choice?
At what point did I say I don't think I made the right?
Did you have doubt? Did you ever
question it?
Yeah. When was the time that you had doubt, or did you not?
I think I still have doubt. I still find myself wondering, all right, did I make the right choice, or should I have taken that job at Nations Bank?
Really?
Oh, yeah. You don't have any doubt?
No, none. Zero.
Never?
No, because I love this. I could question the worth of this. I could think it's a silly enterprise, but I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy doing it.
I'm not saying that you can't enjoy it, and I'm not saying that I don't enjoy what I do. I'm just saying in a world that is constantly changing and where there's so much competition in everything now that we do, everything has become sport on some level. And so the more successful you become at something, the more like a sport it becomes, in that it's not just the expectations that you have for yourself. It becomes this thing of, well, you have to, sell X product or get involved in whether it's social media or all these other things that turn the thing that you enjoy into, it changes it. It makes it something different that you now get caught up in the business of doing a thing you enjoy. And does that, you never have any sort of doubt when it's like, oh, this is more of a business than I thought it was. I thought I was just going to, make jokes or talk on the radio.
That's pretty interesting. Wyatt, I'm wondering, does that doubt, does it drive you? Does it motivate you?
It does. I like the slickness with which you didn't answer my question. But,
I have listen. No,
he wasn't listening to
no.
you,
I
Wyatt.
listened. I thought you made some great points. That's for Dan to answer because I'm comfortable with anything. I don't care. I will sell anything. It don't matter to me. Okay, like I wanted to come on here and talk about sports and sell ads. So this is it.
This business is easier, Wyatt. The business you're asking me about, this business is much easier and the bar is much lower than comedy. Like you're taking calls on sports radio. Like and I'm doing a show with my dad. A stupid television show with my dad. Like, that's
another show, Wyatt. I'm not his dad. It's a different show.
I know Dan. And also, yeah, I feel like I don't know you, Stugotz, like personally, but I know tale of Stugotz. You walk into a room, everyone knows, oh, Stugotz is here. Now, how they say that, right, whether it's, oh, Stugotz is here, or, oh, Stugotz is here, I can't get into the particulars of that.
Right. You don't want to get into the details.
I often wonder, I got to be honest.
Who's a comedian that you look at, Wyatt, and you're like, man, that guy makes it look so easy, or that woman makes it look so easy? That's not that easy.
There are a lot of people that I can point to. I mean, I think, you look at somebody like Dave Chappelle, obviously, yeah, there's an effortlessness with which he can command a stage, and looking at a comedian like Jen Kirkman, like her ability to tell a story and in an engaging way, it's enviable. She was one of the first people that I think when she and I were coming up together in LA, and she was somebody that every show, she would get on stage and she could just tell a story in a way that was funny and it was engaging, and it was different than, say, a comedian who just is doing like set up punchline, and there are tons of setups and punchlines in her jokes, but they tend to be jokes that are taking you on a journey. And I think Chappelle does that really well. I think Chris Rock is amazing at that. There's so many people that I think I can point to that I find myself watching and in awe of and looking at. For me too, I used to host a stand-up show in Brooklyn, and so I would get to see comedians every week, and there's something that's really exciting about getting to see people go in front of the same stage and draw things out of people, to see Michelle Wolf get on stage and draw something out of an audience in a different way than another comedian like, Jim Gaffigan or Seton Smith could.
What did you think of that White House Correspondents' Dinner brouhaha?
It felt like it was more about brouhaha than anything else. It seemed like it was just a weird thing to kind of get focused in on what was maybe a slow news day. I feel like from what I've heard Michelle say afterwards, in the room, everyone seemed to be enjoying it, and I think she even mentioned that Sarah Huckabee Sanders came up to her afterwards and thought everything was funny. And so it just feels like there's a very odd thing that's going on right now of, this, like, let's get outraged about something. Okay, we're outraged, and let's have a little outrage experiment. Like, what can our outrage do in this moment? Let's get outraged at this White House Correspondents' Dinner event, and let's see what the effect of that science experiment is. Will we get the White House Correspondents' Dinner canceled forever, or will we ruin a person's career, or, will everyone hold hands and sing Kumbaya? I think we've just gotten caught up in all of these outrage experiments to see how far outrage can take a person or a moment, and what can come out of it without actually let's get to the reality of what's going on. Is that there's a media event where it's a media that feels like they're under attack from an administration that continually seems to be fudging the truth with them or denying them information about stuff. And rather than talk about that, it's let's get mad at this comedian because she made some jokes.
Again, Problem Areas airs Friday nights, 11:30 on HBO. Chris Rock, you mentioned him. I remember seeing him and Seinfeld marveling really, at how Bill Cosby used to do it, at the effortlessness. You're saying Chris Rock makes it look effortless. Chris Rock said Bill Cosby made it look effortless. As the whole Bill Cosby thing came down, how did you experience that as a child of the era when Bill Cosby was, the lovable sitcom dad?
It was definitely strange because, my grandmother gave me Bill Cosby books when I was a kid, and he was one of those comedians that I looked up to, and when I was starting out, I watched his specials a lot and watched him with the same awe that Rock and Seinfeld talked about him with. I believe that was in the comedian documentary where they were talking about him. But so it was very to sort of hear everything and see everything. It was this strange thing of, oh wow, okay, this person who was somebody that I looked at as a role model from a comedic standpoint isn't that person, isn't a person to be held up in that way. And so that it was strange. It was I've talked, I think right afterwards I found myself thinking about, the amount of interviews I've done to this point where I've said, oh yeah, he was one of my comedy heroes, and now I have to, I can't go back to all those podcasts and interviews and scratch that out. But I think with that, the reality is it's not about me and my feelings on it. It's about, the women who were affected by his actions, and it's about those types of actions trying to create a society where people do not get away with those types of things or even begin to engage in those types of things.
We are out of time. Again, Problem Areas.
What?
Yeah, we're out of time. You talk very slow, Wyatt. Wyatt, you talk very slow, and it just eats up the time. But I understand that you auditioned for Barack Obama, or you auditioned as Barack Obama on Saturday Night Live. You did not get it. Can I hear 20 seconds of the audition to hear why you didn't get it?
You said we had no time.
20 seconds we got left.
But no, now we've got 15.
I know, but now we got 12.
I know, and now it's maybe 9?
I know, but we've got 8 now.
I'm going to say it's 6. I would argue with you and say it's 6.
Argue with me in the last 4 seconds as Barack Obama.
I don't have your story's half off. You've got some fake news there. I didn't actually audition for SNL.
All right, very good. All right, time. We'll talk to you next time. Again, watch his show, Problem Areas. You tried to protect me there. Thank you. I appreciate it. I should have taken the joke down to 1 second. My bad. Thank you, Wyatt.
No, thank you guys.
Don Le Batard. It's Rich Eisen stealing my material. It is Jimmy Traina stealing my material. Hey, get out of here, man.
Who is that? Who is Jimmy Traina?
He's a media writer, I think, out of New York, who I happen to like.
Stugotz.
There
there it is. There it is. The pivot of the Stugotz in this schmarmy salesperson.
No, I happen to like Jimmy. Like, I don't know Jimmy, but I happen to like Jimmy. Jimmy Traina sounds like a guy I would hang out with.
It does. I think you're pronouncing his name wrong, by the way, but keep it moving.
Oh, whatever. I like Jimmy.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Did you see what Nick Saban had to say about UCF and UCF's claims that it is national champion? Did you see any of this?
Yes, he essentially said, how about go out and win an actual national championship? You just can't appoint yourself national champion. Scott Frost, who has distanced himself, Frost needs to make up his mind here. He really does. Because I think a week ago, Scott Frost was saying essentially the same thing as Nick Saban. But now Saban came out and said what he had to say, and now Scott Frost is coming back at Saban, saying that Saban and Alabama have given themselves a couple of national championships that they probably didn't deserve or win, and Frost needs to make up his mind. You want to be the Nebraska coach or the UCF coach? Make up your mind. He's swinging like a pendulum here.
It is interesting that Nick Saban thinks the totally bogus system we have is the honorable system. A clearly flawed system that is better than the one we used to have, which still doesn't make it any good.
Right.
That is propped up by television dollars and this network. This network proclaims you champion, and so it's so. Even though UCF beat Auburn, went undefeated, beat a bunch of bowl teams,
right,
and in beating Auburn, beat the only team that beat Nick Saban.
But it's a system that has them in the Final Four every year.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing. Of course Saban is going to protect that system. No matter how many times he loses, he's in the Final Four. Like, of course he's going to say that that's the credible system. The funny thing is that the rest of you agree with him.
They didn't play in a conference championship game last year.
That's correct. Think about that.
A year removed from Saban saying you have to play in a conference championship game.
Think about that. The guy saying that, the guy saying you can't self-proclaim yourself champions, is the champion, according to this network, but not the SEC champion.
Or us. UCF.
Dan Le Batard.
Ta-da!
Stugotz.
Voila.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
So Bartolo Colon, how old is he? What kind of season is he having? I keep getting told he's having a good season. I was stunned to see him with the Texas Rangers. Why are you rubbing your hands together, Guillermo?
Oh my God. We've been talking about Bartolo Colon all day today, me and Stugotz. I'm so excited we got to this. He's having a decent season, Dan, and I was doing some research, and I found out that Bartolo Colon is either one or two teams away from being on the most teams ever. Octavio Dotel is the most, 13 teams. Right now, I found one place that had Bartolo on 12 and another that had him on 11. So me and Stugotz want to start a campaign where we get Bartolo traded twice this year so he can set the record for most teams played on. But they have to be new teams. It's 13 different teams.
Right.
So like he can't go back to the Mets. He can't go back to any teams he's been on. But he needs to get traded twice this year.
Why this year?
Well,
I mean, Bill, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, that's for sure.
He's one urinalysis away from 160 game suspension. So we need to have this happen soon. Because I was kind of wondering, how's he doing this? And then I go, oh yeah, I know how he's doing this. Everyone knows how he's doing this.
Well, we have talked before about the idea of Bartolo Colon's the only guy who's figured out the way to get the stain out of steroid cheat, and it's just be fat.
Yeah.
If we'll do it by body type, and we won't even remember. He is lovable. Is he the only? I know we're trying to turn A-Rod into that at ESPN, and J-Lo is trying to do it too. But is Bartolo Colon the only steroid cheat across sports who gets to be lovable? Is he the only one? Give me another one. Give me the other guy that has been sent away for, was it 50 games or 80 games? Which one was it?
I think Colon had 2. Yeah, I think it was 80 games.
Wait a minute. Bartolo Colon didn't have 2.
No, but they changed the penalty to 80 and then 160. So it used to be 50 and then it was more, but I think he got caught when it was 80.
Reason we're talking about is because he took a line drive off the stomach yesterday, and weirdly, he's a good athlete. And you can't hit a home run in a Major League Baseball game if you're not a good athlete.
Oh, he's a very good athlete. I mean, he's still pitching in the majors at 45. But Guillermo's right. He's one test away. Like, it's genius if someone actually created this, a steroid that makes you look like you're not actually taking steroids. Because everyone loves the guy. They love him. And why do they love him? He makes fun of himself. He's got a decent sense of humor. And he's a little bit pudgy.
Well, beyond that, though, if you're the guy in charge of the drug test, you see him and you just keep walking.
Of course.
You're like, yeah, not that guy.
I mean,
He clearly not Bartolo. How old is he?
44. I think he turns 45 in a couple weeks. Let me check.
no, he's 45 right now.
You got to be bleeping kidding me. What the hell? The only explanation for 45 years old and still pitching is steroids.
David Ortiz was named in the Mitchell Report in 2003. David
that's
Ortiz.
a good one. That's a good one. Although that hasn't stuck to him, though.
No.
Like he wasn't actually suspended.
He's 44. He turns 45 next week, May 24th.
I got some money here.
You know, I'm starting to forget people that have been suspended for steroids. Like, I completely forgot Nelson Cruz was suspended for steroids.
Put that on the poll. Are you starting to forget who was suspended for steroids? Because that's a good point. Are you going out to the Marlins game later to count fans?
I mean, I'm ready to go. I ordered a counter and everything. I need to go pick it up. I gotta leave soon, but
all right, get out of here now.
Go
Go now. Get out of here now. Go to the Marlins game. Guillermo's going to call us from the Marlins game. They got a noon start. I believe there will be fewer than 1,000 fans there, so he's just going to go there and count fans. Did you see these stats on Justin Verlander? He shut out the Angels last night. He struck out Ohtani 3 times. You want to guess how many runs Justin Verlander has allowed in the last 4 games?
Last 4 games, I don't know, 12 runs?
2. You want to guess what Houston's record is in those 4 games?
2 runs?
1-3.
What? I was going to say 4-0.
1-3. That's baseball right there. That's like a riddle. Justin Verlander, he's 35 years old, and I'm surprised by his ability at 35 to still be a power pitcher.
Baseball, man. He was a power pitcher, then he wasn't, now he's a power pitcher again. It's confusing.
But I'm saying if I'm surprised by Justin Verlander at 35, how can you not be blown away by the idea of Bartolo Colon at 45? The only two types of people who get to keep playing baseball well at 45 are steroid users and knuckleballers.
Wasn't Justin Verlander done
Yes.
4 years ago?
And then the Astros got him, and suddenly he wasn't done. It's weird. By the way, Colon, at the age of 44, going to be 45, 50 innings pitched this year. He's got a 2.82 ERA.
Yeah, it's good.
It's outstanding.
In the American League, yeah.
Oh my God, Verlander's ERA with Houston is 1.06.
Whoa.
You know what Trout is batting against him?
Got 1 win.
You know what Mike Trout is batting against Justin Verlander?
What?
0.87.
Baseball.
I mean, that's crazy. That Mike Trout, how many career at bats is that? What's he got? 1 hit? 2 hits?
I mean, I'm puzzled as to how he's getting enough at bats considering Justin Verlander's mowing everybody down and he's only getting 3 opportunities. So what? 1 hit out of what's 0.87? How is this possible? Wait a second, it's baseball. I'm doing the thing again where I forget.
Yeah, baseball.
The Cologne thing is crazy, though. The idea that this guy at 45 years old would be bouncing around the sport and still eating innings and whatever's in your clubhouse buffet is crazy.
He's 2 for 24 against Verlander, Mike Trout is.
2 homers, though. All or nothing.
That's baseball right now. That right there is baseball. Of course it's 2 homers. What are the Raptors doing?
I don't know. You see what they tweeted out yesterday?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
They're congratulating Dwayne Casey. Congratulations, Coach, on Coach of the Year.
I feel like, because a lot of people are upset with them, and I feel like it's just a guy who's being, or a lady who's being genuine, who's their social media director, who, loved Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey, by all accounts, a very, very good, kind, caring man. Loved that person so much that when they sent out NBA Coach of the Year finalists, that person congratulated Coach, said, hey, way to go, Coach. Congratulations, Coach. And that it was just an innocent mistake. But I understand why people would take it the wrong way because it's a terrible look.
Chris, can you put it on the poll, please? The Toronto Raptors tweet. Is it And I want all of these words in there. What Stugotz said, a marketing person who really loved Dwayne Casey and thinks that he is a kind and gentle person and loves him so much that wanted to remember him and just made an innocent mistake, or Canada.
That's it.
Splash.
They're very nice there. So they fire you, and then they congratulate you a couple days later, and you're Coach of the Year.
The NBA tweeted out, just so we could be completely accurate. I don't know why I chose this story. The three finalists for NBA Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey, Quinn Snyder, Brad Stevens. The Raptors responded, "Congrats, Coach." Funny.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN News.
Dan Le Batard.
Is Jay Wright the best? Yes, maybe, no.
Stugotz.
Is Jay Wright the best? Yes, maybe, no.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Roger Bennett and Michael Davies, Men in Blazers, going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We only have one right now. We have one man in a blazer. We need the second. Oh, we have two. Awesome. Here's your SportsCenter update. Justify will be racing out of the 7th stall for the Preakness Stakes. Derek Jeter remains positive and confident despite being unhappy with the Marlins' record and attendance. Wait till he gets a hold of today's attendance. Game starts in 4 minutes. And finally, director Lars von Trier returned to the Cannes Film Festival on Monday after a 7-year ban for controversial Hitler comments with a screening of his new thriller, The House That Jack Built, which stars Matt Dillon as a serial killer who views his crimes as works of art. The movie prompted more than 100 moviegoers to leave the theater before it was over because of its sadistic scenes in which Dillon's character mutilates women and children. Those who did stick it out gave the movie a 6-minute standing ovation. This SportsCenter is brought to you by GNC. Ignite what's inside you. From building muscle to finding the best multis, get the highest quality wellness solutions and supplements. Now buy 2, get 1 free for a limited time at GNC. Live well. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
I'm not making fun of you here. I thought Khan, the S was silent at the end. Am I wrong about this, or are you wrong? Is it?
I mean,
the film festival.
You think I have any confidence in myself when it comes to this?
I don't know what the answer is to that. I thought it was the Cannes Film Festival.
I think it is the Cannes Film Festival.
Put it on the poll, Chris, please. And
that's an unfair S to put there on me, though. I mean, if what are we doing there? If there's an S, it's Cannes. But I think you're right. It's Cannes. Is that a silent S?
I don't know. Maybe the Men in Blazers can help us out. You guys got any opinions on this? We'll start with Roger. Maybe Michael has a stronger opinion, but we'll start with Roger.
I get all my cinema at Lowe's. Dan and Stugotz, it is an honor to be with you. You're like Davo and myself, but you're actually talented.
I don't believe that that's so.
But what about this Cannes and Cannes thing? Anything?
Oh, no, it's calm. The S is silent. The S is silent. The French are tricky like that. They're always trying to trick us.
What do you guys think is, and thank you for joining us, by the way. They're very popular, and Stugotz makes a lot of fun of soccer because he says he's been hearing all his life, here comes soccer. But it seems like with the MLS and America, it actually feels like here comes soccer, where they're making these games parties and stuff. Your opinion there is what?
Well, America, we just released a book.
My fault. I should have addressed one of you.
Yep.
My fault. Go ahead, Michael.
Soccer is America's sport of the future, as it has been since 1972. Stugotz is completely right. It will always be America's sport of the future. We actually have more respect for people like Stugotz who don't ever see the sport ever taking off, despite all the evidence to the contrary. We respect that more than the people that love the game, I think.
Thank you.
Is that right? That's interesting.
These are my guys. Yes.
I don't understand why Michael is in this business. Aren't you like a television kingpin?
Kingpin is that is an insult to kingpins everywhere. I'm a television producer. That's my day job. But frankly, which of us does not enjoy sport more than our day job?
But how many Emmys have you won?
5. How many have you won?
I haven't won any, so that doesn't.
Oh.
I mean,
he wasn't insulting you.
Aren't you like? Don't you have television businesses?
Yes, I do, but I prefer football. I love football. All codes of football: Gaelic football, Aussie rules football, association football, the NFL. I like sports a lot. I do it all.
So, can you give us an idea again? Men in Blazers with us. It's Roger Bennett. And Michael, and it's Michael Davies, and
or is it Davey?
The French are tricky that way.
I like it.
Are you guys? Let me address one of you, Roger. Are you a fan of the Zlatan the way we're a fan of the Zlatan?
If you're not a fan of Zlatan, you're not a fan of life. Zlatan is like Babe Ruth pointing at the bleachers and then hitting a home run. Apart from he hits that home run in Swedish. We've just written a book called the Encyclopedia Blazers and Cenac, which is a love letter to the game we love, football, in the country we love, America. And Zlatan, this is a secret that we've not really talked about, and our publisher freaked out a little bit that we made it public. Zlatan is actually the ghostwriter of our book. We did not write a word, but he's so prolific, he can score goals from downtown on a football field where even Steph Curry could not hit a basketball shot from. And he's had time off the field to write every single word of our book, Encyclopedia Blazers and Cenac. That's how prolific he is, guys.
Michael, who is the most arrogant athlete in the sport?
Oh, in the sport of soccer? Oh, arrogant, probably Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, as Roger always says about Cristiano, he only scores goals and is only brilliant at soccer so that he can whip his shirt off in celebration and show everyone his abs and pecs. That is his sole motivation for being brilliant at football. So probably Cristiano Ronaldo. But what makes football, what makes association football, soccer, so great is these men are mostly insane. These are young men with way too much time on their hands. They're insane. They're not wearing helmets. We see their personalities. We see their lives. We see their insanity play out on an almost daily basis throughout the entire year because the season never ends.
Michael, you're a Chelsea supporter, right?
I enjoy Chelsea Football Club and England, yes.
So do you know about this mega yacht that Roman Abramovich has? Do you know details about it that you can share with us?
I may or may not have actually been on that mega yacht and may have signed documents which mean that I cannot disclose or not disclose what I may or may not have seen.
No
way. There are documents.
There are documents. He won't let you. I mean, all right. Can you answer questions just like with a grunt or something where you're not revealing the information?
I can't promise it, but I'm willing to hear the questions and try and deal with them in an entertaining fashion.
All right. True or false, multiple helicopters can land there?
1 grunt for true, 2 grunts for false.
Ooh, very good.
That was 1 grunt.
We got you. No, we'll keep doing it this way. Did you see the submarine?
I did not. I did not see the submarine. There may or may not.
So that's 2 grunts?
2 grunts. 2 grunts.
How about the seats that come from the skin of sperm whales?
I don't know about that. Look, all I can tell you, the tender. I thought I was on the mega yacht when I got on the tender took you from the harbour to the mega yacht. I thought that was the mega yacht, and when the tender pulled up to the mega yacht, I was like, I just was not prepared for it.
But wait, how did
that is so great.
Can you talk about the details that have you arriving at the non-disclosure agreement? Like, why are you there?
I was there because I happened to be vacationing in the same general vicinity as the owner of my favorite football team. In fact, I dedicate the book, Encyclopedia Blazers and Cenac, to 2 people, to my mother, my dearly departed mother, and Roman Abramovich, because they both changed my life enormously. You know, when Roman bought Chelsea Football Club, we were a sort of a fashionable but not very good, somewhat violent football club in West London. And when the Russian billionaire, multi-billionaire, oligarch Roman bought the club, it just sort of changed everything. So when I found myself in the same place as him on vacation, and a friend of mine happened to be staying on the boat. I was then invited to the boat. It was the evening of my life, without any doubt.
Nice.
Once you've sat on a seat that's made of sperm whale, you will never sit on any other kind of seat again, guys. I'm sure you can understand that.
Well, help me understand. I love how this guy talks about not being a television kingpin while having the money to get on this yacht. Now, Roger, have you been on it?
On the yacht?
Yes.
I live on it.
Okay.
I'm the cabin boy, like on Love, like Julie, the cruise director on the Love Boat. I run social activities.
Well, help me out here because you guys
Social
have
director.
You guys have genuine chemistry. Roger, can you just ask Michael some questions about his evening on this yacht that aren't going to get him in trouble with his non-disclosure agreement?
You know, in life, as you understand...
One at a time! Have you two never worked together before?
And that was directed to Roger. I got to be honest, Michael.
I made that clear.
As you guys understand, the great nights of your life, they happen almost unexpectedly. And when you go on Roman Abramovich's yacht, it's like New Year's Eve. Ultimately, it's truly for amateurs. There's been greater nights that Davo has had with a six-pack of Budweiser, a bottle of Jägermeister, and our fans just tying one on. As the World Cup is about to happen, gentlemen. I'm sure your nipples are tingling in the same way as ours are. We are about to go across this country, America, the country we love, doing a live show every night. Those nights, ultimately, are the nights of joy when the real action goes down.
Michael, have you had, you've done a lot of television. Have you had as much fun doing anything as you have doing Men in Blazers?
No. I mean, look, I love my job. We are really fortunate people to work in broadcasting. Like, none of this is really work. It's not real work. But to work in sports broadcasting and then to actually be paid to watch and talk about the sport you love and to do it with one of your best mates, it's like, what's better than that? It's amazing.
Do you guys fight much?
We had one major fight. It's actually written about in our book. We actually drew a mat. We drew a mat and we drew a mat. Rog was walking past the hotel where the fight took place and the manager ran out to tell him to come back in so that he could have happy memories in the place where it happened.
But what were you fighting about? What are some of the details?
There's a Chelsea striker who I believed was a very poor player. Davo, God love him, is an emotionally driven fan. And by my telling Davo this guy was awful, and he turned out to be awful, that doesn't mean I was right, and I would never reopen a wound that led to fist fight. But it led to us having a fist fight in a bar over the only thing ultimately that is worth fighting about, which is sports.
Michael,
that actually wasn't what that fight was about, but that was actually reminded me that we actually had two fights because that was another fight.
All right, well, who won that fight? Who won that fight?
Well, when I say fight, it never came to blows.
Oh,
okay. We just used it. It was a knife fight, guys. Like you guys, as you understand, that we both keep shivs on our person at all times. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, very good. Encyclopedia Blazer Cenac is available now. They've got a new book. They've got a very popular show, Men in Blazers. Roger Bennett and Michael Davies with us on ESPN Radio. Roger, how fast or how quickly will Wayne Rooney eat and drink himself out of MLS?
That is the question that everybody is talking about. It's hard to believe. Wayne Rooney is a year younger than Ronaldo. Ronaldo, this preening show pony who lives to expose the world to him freeing his nipples and revealing an 8-pack that makes any human being just quiver with their own sense of inadequacy. Wayne Rooney is a year younger than that man. But years of pounding the pies, years of pounding the beers, years of just hard living, the cigarettes, the women, the everything have ground this man down. So he actually looks old enough to be my grandfather. However, in a life which is often tormented off the field, a little bit like Raging Bull, loved being in the ring. It's the only place he felt like being in control. Wayne Rooney is a creature who just adores playing football. And with that kind of mental impetus, he's seen what Zlatan has done over here. He's seen the goals. He's seen the glory. He sees the commercial opportunity. So I would never write off Wayne Rooney in any regard. He is a player. If you watched him come through as a 17, 18-year-old when he was a snarling ball of aggression, here's a player that was capable of doing remarkable things, still is capable of doing remarkable things. The only thing he won't be able to do is work out how the hell to get around the Beltway. So that if you run any club in America that hires him, you have to give him his man who's going to drive him around. Because Steven Gerrard, a similar footballing legend, he came to the LA Galaxy, great footballer, but he spent his whole time being like, the 405, I don't understand. How does it get to the 101? And you've got to, if an Englishman comes here, you've got to just get him a driver. If he can navigate your city, he will dominate your league.
Michael, just a numerical answer to this question because we got to get out of here. And again, their new book, Encyclopedia Blazer Cenac, is available now. Number of times a day on average, Roger says the word nipples.
I mean, every time he's on radio, every time he's on television, every time he's on a podcast. Right now, because we're promoting the book, about 7 or 8 times a day.
Okay, 7 or 8 times.
And that's low. That's low, guys. Can I just say, our book has come out. We are going on tour across America. The notion of bringing the game we love to the country. We'll have Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, the East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country. Nothing makes our nipples tingle harder. Guys, it is great to be with you. We genuinely admire who you are, what you do, what you've done for sport in this country. As I said, you're like us, but with talent.
Well, you guys are exceptional, and you're a lot of fun. So do come on again, okay? We can't talk to you enough. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Money, 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 money.
We don't talk about soccer around here very much. Those are two guys that are good at talking about
What's
soccer.
to talk about?
Again, Encyclopedia Blazer Cenac is available now.
Dan Le Batard.
Man, you have no journalistic responsibility.
Stugotz.
Yep, and I love it.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
David Wells will be hosting the Perfect Game 20th anniversary celebration at Sony Hall in New York. If you want more information, visit perfect33foundation.org. It is something that might be more famous for the details before the perfect game than the actual perfect game. So Wells was a notorious partier. He had a great deal of fun.
Yeah, growing up in New York, I'll tell you, and I'm a Mets fan, but just one of the all-time great characters in sports. Everyone loved David Wells.
Yeah, and he loved having a good time. So David joins us now on ESPN Radio. Thank you for doing so. Can you tell us about what you're going to be doing at this anniversary celebration other than drinking?
Well, I mean, drinking.
Okay.
No, we're just gonna. It's just gonna be a good event. Obviously, we're with my foundation, the Perfect 33 Foundation. I'm out there to raise money for our Navy SEALs, military men and women. I feel strong about this, getting these treatments for them for traumatic brain injury. But not only that, just have a night full of fun. Bernie Williams is going to get up. He's going to be playing with his band, just playing some music. And, Michael Kay will be hosting the show. He'll be emceeing it. And we'll just have a lot of fun. These galas, you just do what you do and you just get creative as you go along, tell some stories and try to make people laugh and have a good time.
Are you surprised at all that Bernie Williams intimated to us the last time he was on with us that psychedelics help with his music?
Well, I guess him and Timothy Leary became friends.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I was a bit shocked to hear Bernie Williams say that because Bernie Williams never says things like that. That's your department.
No, Bernie. It depends. Maybe he's spiritual in certain ways, but no, Bernie is. He's an amazing human being. He's a hell of a baseball player for one thing, but his music, just watching him, in the clubhouse before the games, after the games, playing his music and just really getting deep into it. I mean, him and Paul O'Neill would be down in the tunnel, jamming at the end of Old Yankee Stadium, and it was awesome. And we just never knew we knew he could play, but now he's taking it on the road. And he played at Joe Torre's event a few weeks ago in L.A., and dang, the guy's good.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, though, David. When would they be? Paul O'Neill and Bernie Williams would be doing what in Yankee Stadium?
Jamming down in there was a room down the hallway, and Paul O'Neill would be playing drums, Bernie would be playing guitar, they just get a jam session going all the time. It was awesome.
I could so see Paul O'Neill playing the drums.
You can?
Oh, yes. And he's got like a headband on.
Like Loverboy, I think of Paul O'Neill as a little more rigid than that. I don't think of Paul O'Neill that way.
No, he's an incredible drummer as well. Man's talented.
Very good. Who is the teammate that could drink David Wells under the table?
Oh, there was a lot of guys that could do that. But on the 98 team, we were just moderation. I would take it a little bit further, but not all the time. People perceive me to be this wild and crazy guy. I just pick my spots. We all do. You just pick your spots, and sometimes you shouldn't do it at certain times, and I happen to do it at a time I shouldn't have happened, and then this perfect game happened. So it was pretty. I mean, I'm not gonna shy away from it. Hell no.
David Wells will be hosting tonight the Perfect Game 20th anniversary celebration at Sony Hall in New York. For more information, visit perfect33foundation.org. David, what do you remember, if anything, from the night before your perfect game or the morning of your perfect game?
I remember the night before. It was, I just went for just a social hour, just hang out with Lauren Michaels, at Saturday Night Live. And then, Marcy Klein, she kind of coaxed me into going to the after party, hanging out. And I'm like, well, I got to pitch tomorrow. And it's like, Dennis Rodman had a really good game when he came to an after party. And so I'm like, I'm not Dennis Rodman. I'm far from it. And so I went, and one thing led to another. And I think it was Jimmy Fallon and I were looking at each other about 5:30 in the morning. Said, we got to go, dude. We got to go. The sun's coming up. And, knowing that I had to pitch, I was just like, oh, boy, if I don't do my job today, I have hell to pay.
So let's answer some questions here. How many hours did David Wells sleep that night?
Probably about 2.5. Three, maybe.
How many drinks did David Wells have that night?
No recollection.
Okay, very good. So, and who were the people you were hanging out with? How was it that you were having, what was the SNL after party like?
They're fun. I've been to quite a few of them, and they're just fun. Sometimes some are better than others. It just depends on, the night and what's going on and how the vibe is. And that night the vibe was pretty good. So, I think Horatio Sands, Seth Meyers, Will Forte, I think Fred Armisen, pretty much the whole cast that was there. So we just, one thing led to another. Some guys stayed longer than others, and Jimmy and I just happened to be, and I think Warren Michaels we were the last ones to leave, I believe. So it was, but like I said, it was a long night.
So tell us,
we just kept going.
Tell us how you felt after the 2.5 hours of sleep. You get up, you have to go to the ballpark. How are you doing?
Let me ask you a question. How would you feel drinking all night and getting 2.5, 3 hours of sleep?
Yes, terrible. Terrible.
Yes.
It's terrible. So you
go. I loaded up with coffee. I was a coffee drinking fool for the next 2-3 hours. And so, and drinking a lot of water, just trying to hydrate and all that. I just did one of the stupidest things you could possibly do, is go out the night before and get trashed. And it was something that, am I proud of it? Not really, but it was but to accomplish something like that, yeah, it was cool. But, it's just one of those things that I shouldn't have done, and it happened, and then look what happened. So it's like, I can't really say, I know I did a stupid thing, but on a reoccurrence, no, that would be the wrong thing to do.
When I do it, I try to avoid all employees. All my coworkers, I try to avoid everyone. I don't want to make eye contact with anyone. Did you walk into work just hiding from...
Gary Sheffield used to arrive at spring training, being out all night, and he would just go find the mouthwash. Take us... Right. No, he would.
I know.
So David Wells gets to Yankee Stadium this day, and you think you're going to pitch how? You can't think you're going to pitch well, do you?
No, you don't expect anything. You just better hope that you keep the team in the ball game and you at least do your job, because if you don't, I don't care how much mouthwash you put in your throat. It comes out, the alcohol comes out of your pores, so you stink. So it's just like, I was avoiding. I'm just like you. I avoided everybody. I stayed in the back room. We had a masseuse at the time, so I just said, work on my legs, get my legs loose, so I can at least be somewhat human out there and just not just a big blah. So that's what I did.
Somebody knew, though.
I avoided all contact.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have like a really close friend on the team.
Did
like
anyone?
Someone knew.
Did
right?
O'Neal sidle up next to you and go like, "Wells, Christ Almighty"?
I didn't give anybody that opportunity.
Okay. All right, you were just hiding from everybody.
And then perfect game.
Basically, I was in the massage room and in the bathroom. So,
well, how many times did you go to the bathroom? You said you were hydrating a lot. Give us a number of times during his perfect game that David Wells ended up running to the bathroom, and did it happen while you were on the mound? Is that why you threw the perfect game? Because you had to go to the bathroom. You had to get back in the dugout.
No, before the game, probably about 6-7 times, and then maybe once or twice during the game. So, it was just, you're caught up. It's just something that you don't have much time in between innings, especially if they're, 1, 2, 3 innings. You better zip it up and let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you should be proud of this, man. It might be the greatest feat in the history of sports.
You really should. I don't like this whole apologizing. Stugotz is so right about this.
Yes.
David, I would like for you to own this a little more. Stop apologizing for it and say, that's right. I got out there. I partied all night on Saturday Night Live, and I threw what? What was it? Was it the 13th perfect game in Major League history?
It was the 15th perfect game in Major League history. Oh, no, I'm owning up to it. Don't get me wrong. I said it was a stupid thing to do. I'm not apologizing. I just said it was a stupid thing to do.
20 years later, you're still coming on the air talking about it,
20 years later, yeah, you got a congratulations.
Did it ever not work, David?
Yeah. When was the give us the time that you got shelled? The time that you went in, smelling like liquor and you gave up 7 runs in the first.
I don't think that ever happened.
David, thank you for being on with us. Again, Perfect Game 20th anniversary celebration, Sony Hall, New York, perfect33foundation.org. That sounded like you waking up that morning. Thank you, David. We appreciate it.
Don Le Batard.
La, 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 la. La, 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 la.
Stugotz.
Hey. Goodbye.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Just so we're clear, before we get to the stat of the day, something that happened at Tim Hortons and the polls, just so that we are clear. The Rockets last night won, not because they changed anything. They did not. They played just as much isolation ball, but the guys not named Harden and Chris Paul went 12 of 22 from 3. If they do that, they will beat the Warriors.
Right.
If that's something that they do in the series, the guys not named Paul and Harden from deep were 12 of 22 from 3.
Let's see him do it on the road. Gonna be interesting.
But that's the reason that doubt will creep in. That's the only way the Warriors will lose is if last night happens 4 times in 7 games, and even then it might not happen because the Warriors still might beat you. But that's the only way the Rockets can do that. Let's get to the stat of the day, please. Short version. We're running short on time.
Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day. Start of the day, it is the start of the day.
Dan, the combined annual contracts of Dak Prescott, David Johnson, Todd Gurley, Odell Beckham Jr., Josh Gordon, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, Marcus Peters, Jason Verrett, Marshawn Lattimore, Landon Collins. Those combined salaries are less than what Matt Ryan will make this year.
According to
NFL research.
Okay. Tim Hortons. What happened at Tim Hortons?
A lady pooped on the floor.
And then expressed her displeasure by throwing it all over the place.
Yeah, she was very upset with the employees. She pooped. She dropped her pants because you need to do that before you poop. And then she pooped on the floor, and then she threw it, and then she grabbed some napkins, and then she cleaned herself up, and then she threw those napkins at the employees, too. That's the recap.
Seems like a reasonable response to your food not being what you want. At Le Batard Show on the polls, what do we have here today, Stugotz, on the polls?
What we have here today, Dan, is did you know that the NFL's dirty secret is that the players don't like to get dressed on game day? I had no idea about this.
The shoulder pads are
You have
annoying.
opened
None of
my
them like
eyes.
putting the shoulder pads on.
You have completely opened my eyes. 69% of the audience said no.
Nice.
Is the boss the guy who makes the rules? 76% of the audience said yes. Rule maker. Is Fat Chris dumb for thinking the starter pistol at track meet shoots real bullets?
If they're so safe, why do they point them up in the air?
Listen, it's a fair point. You've opened my eyes.
I guess the optics of him pointing it directly at the people at the starters gates would
probably not
be
great.
problematic.
Dangerous.
89% of the audience said Chris is dumb. Is you're a loser? No, you are. Sports radio. 87% of the audience said yes. That number should be higher.
It really should be.
Building blocks of it. What are the Raptors doing? A marketing person had a good relationship with Dwayne Casey and let a tweet slip, or Canada? 80% of the audience said Canada. Those are the polls.
You guys did not write that question the way that I asked you to write that question, which was enormously long-winded explanation for why it is that the Raptors tweeted out, "Congratulations, coach," to someone they fired a few days ago, which is amazing. It really is amazing.
It's Canada.
I don't like to fire people, but if we were firing a social media director, what we would do is take the Raptors, name that person the social media person of the year, and then a couple of days, fire them, and then fire them for what they just did on the Raptors account, and then turn around and congratulate them for being social media director of the year.
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPN News.